Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Unrestricted Sports. Today, we are bringing you the NHL Eastern Conference playoff update. So, to start off, before we begin, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really just helps out this video and the channel. And yeah, I'll let Nolan get right into it.
So relatively interesting Eastern Conference so far. We'll start off with round robin play. Um, with I'm not going to say the shock, but definitely interesting. The Lightning are sitting um, atop the standings, with a record of 2-0-0, followed by the Flyers at 2-0-0, Capitals 0-1-1, and the Bruins 0-2-0. I think the biggest shock there isn't that the Flyers are doing so well, but that the Bruins are doing so bad. Um, the Bruins have now lost to the Lightning and the Flyers. The Flyers handled the Bruins 4-1, and it was a close game to the Lightning, with a score of 3-2. Um, Not really much of note there. It was kind of interesting to see the Lightning beat the Capitals in a shootout. With what we're calling playoff hockey, seeing a shootout is kind of odd, but technically speaking, this is round robin play and not in playoff format. But yeah, I would expect these current standings that I just read off to you to be the similar standings. We still have yet to see the Bruins versus the Capitals, but no matter what happens here, I believe the Capitals will still have the third seed locked up, strictly because of um, that they have an overtime loss to the Lightning. Bruins and Flyers and Lightning still have to play as well. That will just determine the 1 seed and the 2 seed. So we pretty much have a lock on the seeds here, as of right now. That's pretty much all I have to say on round robin play before we get into the 5-game series matchups. You got anything, Brendan?
Nothing really. Nothing really stood out to me during the round robin matchups, really, that I really feel like needs to be added to what you already said.
Yeah. I guess my last notice here is just the goaltending situations. Like I mentioned, I expected the Capitals to have rough goaltending, and Braden Holtby has been the definition of rough. The Bruins, however, having Tuukka Rask and and Halak, I was expecting them to do much better, but they're struggling in that aspect. And then Carter Hart and Andrei Vasilevsky proving to be two of the better goalies in that conference, which I expected to say the least. But moving on here, we'll start with um, one of the two biggest upsets in the entire NHL, and that is the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the 12-seeded Montreal Canadiens. And the Canadiens won this series 3-1. And it wasn't very convincing. It wasn't a very convincing series win. Um, it was just more of like a problem with the Penguins. Um, the Penguins were without Jake Gensel, and the Penguins had better forward depth. They had better defensive depth. Um, and to be honest, what won the Canadiens this series was Carey Price and Petrie. That's about it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like everything. It was favored towards the Penguins in this competition. I mean, special teams and power play and penalty kill. It was truly just the better goaltending and the timely goals for the Canadians that won them this series.
yeah. I mean, I honestly can't believe the Canadians won. But even more upsetting than that is the fact that Pittsburgh, as a team that was the fifth seed in the bracket, could potentially get the first overall pick.
Oh, I know. I don't want to say this too many times because there's multiple situations where this is going to happen, but uh, the fact that I know Sidney Crosby and Malkin are getting older, but they won a cup 3 years ago, so it's not like they're really out of their primes. I mean, obviously they're declining, but that's expected with age. But the fact that you could get the best player in hockey that's not already in the NHL in Lafreniere to pair him with Crosby and Malkin, whether it's for 2 years or it's for 5 or 7, it doesn't matter. You're in the Penguins. The Penguins were a contender this year, and
Yeah,
they have the possibility to add the number one overall pick, who will most likely contribute and will most likely be the next Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin or player of that type. That's crazy.
it's in a normal year this would never be possible, and so that's the one criticism I have of this is that teams ranked this highly should not be eligible if they get knocked out.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it was more of an encouragement for the lower seeded teams like the Canadians to not just not try. But yeah, like you said, this team having the record that they had and the expectations they had
should have no
should
shot at
have
the first
no
pick,
shot at this pick.
and now they do.
Yeah,
So,
I mean
all right,
we'll find out soon enough, but
yeah,
yeah. Moving on to the easiest series to cover, and that is Hurricanes versus Rangers. Hurricanes handled this series 3-0 sweep. There wasn't really a close game except game one. But yeah, Rod Brind'Amour's team is going to continue what could be another shocking run to the Stanley Cup maybe this year. But we will see. For the Rangers, it was really just the fact that Artemi Panarin and Mike Zibanejad didn't show up. In addition to kind of rough goaltending, you obviously have the aging Lundqvist there. In what might be the last season for the veteran. So obviously a little bit of an upsetting ending for him. But it is the way it is, especially when you're going against Carolina's trio of Teravainen, Aho, and Svechnikov. They are truly a young and dangerous core. I mean, I expected this series to be either a 5-game one or a 3-game one. Obviously, like I mentioned, the Rangers had beat or had swept the Hurricanes, sorry, in the regular season. But come playoff time, obviously the Hurricanes showed up. But it was, like I mentioned, the lack of Panarin and Zibanejad and goaltending that cost the Rangers this series.
yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I agree with that.
So moving on, unless you got anything else to say on that series.
No, that one I kind of expected that to happen. To
Yeah.
be perfectly honest.
Yeah. I don't want to get into expectations for these teams. Because at this rate you can really expect anything, seeing that the Canadians beat the Penguins. Hurricanes beating the Rangers was kind of expected, but then again, the Hurricanes are a relatively good team with solid goaltending from Peter Mrazek. So I would be comfortable saying that they will have a good opportunity at making it far, but I would rather not give predictions because I could be extremely wrong.
Yeah.
Moving on into what was a relatively boring series to watch, and that was the Islanders versus the Panthers. The Islanders pretty much got their way with the Panthers in this series, winning 3-1. Um, it was a relatively convincing series win for the Islanders, except for that Game 3 loss that they had to the Panthers. But besides that, for this, I mean, it was really just, I think it was more of just bad breaks for the Panthers here.
Yeah.
They had good coaching and they have good goaltending. Um, I think it's just more of just troubles and just generally being outworked by the Islanders. The Islanders pretty much had every advantage there was to have in terms of first line forward depth, defense, goaltending, etc. Um, I, I think the only way that you could have seen the Panthers winning this series was for them to just have an offensive onslaught because that's what they are, a very powerful offensive team. But the Islanders' defense is one that people need to respect, and the fact that the Panthers couldn't do much against the Islanders' defense is, for me, the main reason why the Islanders won this series is just that defense that held the Panthers off the scoreboard, and then similar to the Canadians, timely goals in key moments.
Yeah. I agree.
So, moving on to an interesting series, and that is Maple Leafs versus Blue Jackets. I'm gonna be super harsh here. I think the Maple Leafs are one of the most overrated teams in the entire NHL. To have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Tavares, and Nylander all on a team, and to be going into Game 5 against the Blue Jackets after losing Matt Duchene, Panarin, and Bobrovsky is sickening. Um, Game one and two, I think were just kind of fluke games. I think it was just each team getting accustomed to the other because they posted shutouts, the Blue Jackets and the Maple Leafs in games one and two. But then three and four both went to overtime and 4-3 victories for each team respectively. I would expect game five to be a similar type of play style. But to be honest with you, this series boggles my mind. I would have expected um, the Maple Leafs to pretty much handle the Blue Jackets just because of their young core that has proven to be dominant. But guys like Pierre-Luc Dubois, um, Alexandre Texier, and Bjorkstrand are really just kind of showing up. Like I mentioned, timely goals in timely fashion. But like I mentioned, I would expect the trio of Nylander, Matthews, and Marner to outduel the trio that I mentioned previously with the Blue Jackets, and that's just not what's happened. Um, Defensively speaking, um, Columbus really has the advantage here, um, and surprisingly, they have it in goaltending as well, in my opinion. Um, but the offensive weapons that the Maple Leafs have, should be able to handle the Blue Jackets, and they haven't. And I kind of attribute that to what we've already seen already, and most hockey fans already know this, in that the Maple Leafs are kind of cursed in that aspect. Um, I don't know how much Leafs hockey you watch or pay attention to, Brendan, but I mean, I've never seen. I can't count on the Maple Leafs offense being consistent. I can count on it having its special games. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I see a lot of the Maple Leaves because obviously, them and Detroit play each other quite a bit, being in the same division. And I do take great pride whenever we beat them, and we are kind of rivals with them. Obviously, recently we haven't been as great for Detroit anyway, but I expect that to turn around pretty quickly. But that's besides the point. Toronto never really strikes me as a team that's very consistent, so I'm not at all surprised that they. I mean, I am surprised, but I'm not shocked
Yeah.
that they lost.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting game five to watch. The only game five in the Eastern Conference. So
Yep.
that's definitely going to be an interesting game to pay attention to, in addition to obviously the Lightning Flyers game and how that will shake out to see who is the number one seed. Other than that, that's all I have on the NHL Eastern Conference as of right now. Um, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It does help out the channel a lot. And yeah, we will see you guys next time. Peace.